Hello again. So we're back again to check out another one of DuBois' portraits. And this time, actually, let me show the original. So it's called Slaves and Free Negroes. I believe this was plate number 12 in his original collection of portraits. And it shows the progression over time, essentially, of the percentage of free black people and enslaved black people, where we kind of see that journey over time from 1790, where slavery was sort of still a thing. So, of course, you can see there's a portion of people that are enslaved, actually a really high proportion. And then somewhere between 1860 and 1870, of course, slavery is abolished. And then all the way down to 1870, we can see that, there are no more slaves. And so that's kind of just a cool thing to sort of see, over time, just how it was basically a thing. And then all of a sudden, boom, no one's a slave. So great news. But of course, we can see all those years of suffering sort of, embodied within this chart. So this one's actually very easy to make technically, but there are just a lot of fine details that we'll have to, think about as we build it in Tableau. So I'm going to hide the original. And let me just touch on a few of those things. So we have here, the scale is zoomed in, so it's only showing 3%. So that means we're going to have to work with that. We notice that the year also is reversed. Rather than having it on the horizontal axis, it's on the vertical. So that's another thing. But other than that, this is just a combination of sheets. We've got one sheet here, 2, 3, 4. And so we're just going to start building one by one, and we're going to get this together, hopefully very straightforward. So I'm going to pick the data set. It's this data set over here. And we can see that when we click on the data source, we've basically got 3 columns. So very simple. We got the year column, the dimension that tells us whether people are free or enslaved, and the percentage of, these dimensions. So let's go back here and start building. We're going to grab value, drop that on columns. We're going to grab year, drop that on rows. So that gives us the effect of essentially having the year on the vertical axis and the value on the horizontal, as opposed to the reverse. I'm going to right click, edit axis. I'm just going to remove this title because it wasn't in DuBois, and I'm going to try to get as close as possible to his. We're going to pull in the dimension. We want to color it by the proportion. So we're going to grab dimension. We're going to put it here. And because I already set that color of my previous work, it's already set that color. And you'll notice this still looks a little bit different. And that's because we still have our full range to 100%. We need to cut that down. It's only showing 3% worth of values. So in our case, because it's the top 3%, we want to go 100 minus 3, that's 97. So we're going to go from 97 all the way to 100. And how do we do that? We do that by fixing the axes. So we want to go down to these value axes here and right click and edit the axes. And then you want to go fixed axes. And then we're going to change this. We're going to start at 97. And then we're going to end at 100. So it's showing only 3% worth. And then we can see now that the thing has started to take shape. It's a lot closer to what we see in the original portrait. So just a few more things here. Let's go back and see. Okay, we don't even actually need this axis. So I'm going to go here, edit, not show this header actually. So now we have our first portion of this. Now we're gonna duplicate this sheet. We're gonna just keep going. So follow me, please. We're gonna duplicate this sheet here, and then we're going to change a few things. Now we don't want to color by the dimension, so we're gonna click on here and change this to detail, and then we're gonna change the marks from an area. We're gonna change it to a bar. And so what this does is it gives us this little nice effect over here. That's what I'm trying to replicate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make bars, make them super slim, and then color them the same color as our background over here. So pretty straightforward, but of course you kind of need to, get creative with it, if you will. So we're going to do this by hitting size. We're going to go very slim right here. And we don't need this year axis, so we're going to right click, uncheck show headers. We know that these grid lines are going to be a distraction, so we want to hit format. We're going to hit borders, and we're going to go to the lines. and shut it all down. No grid lines, no zero lines, no axis rulers, no axis ticks. We just want clear screen. Awesome. So we're done, and we're gonna color and hit that. I already have it saved just to keep it simple. So we're coloring the bars the same color as the background. And something peculiar, you'll notice that it sort of still gives us that hover piece, and we can actually see where the bar breaks off into like slave and free. So that's the cool thing where, we can still show the tooltip on there. So that's the second visual that we need. Now we're going to duplicate this again. And this time around, we don't need the lines. What we need is actually, we need the percentages. So what I'm trying to do is to get this portion going. So we need the percentage values here. We need to have the year in the view. So what we're going to do, and this is actually the percentage of free people. Okay, awesome. So what we need to do, we're first going to filter the view so that we know we're looking at only the free. So we click dimension, put it in filters, and we're going to uncheck slave. So now we have only the free people showing. Then we're going to grab this value. We don't need this in the view. We want it actually as a text because we want that to show as a grid here. So we're going to do that. And we're going to take away 1 decimal. So right click, format, hit there, custom number, remove the decimal, and now we're close. We don't really need this little guy over here. So I'm just going to make that transparent. Hit no borders. So now we just have that axis. And what else do we need? I'm going to change this to discrete. And then I'm going to hide this header. And then last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to the left hand side by hitting label. And this is honestly just a label for the bars. So basically we hit this and we go alignments and we want to hit it to the left. So now we have this here. And then just as usual, we want to clean up the view. So we're going to remove these lines over here. So we hit the borders again and check out the rows. We don't want any row dividers. We can still see some axis lines. So we're going to hit the lines here and axis 6. Could those be some column dividers? What are those? Okay, we're good. So that was just some cell lines there. Okay, so now we have the third piece. And what else do we need? We need one more here. So the top piece, this one should be very easy. It's just the value. So we're gonna duplicate this again. We're removing the dimension. We don't need that. We're removing the year. We don't need that. We're removing this. We don't need that. All we need is the sum of value. We need that in the columns pane. And we only need from 1 to 3%. So how do we do that? Let me edit this axis. Wow, 0 to 945. 0, 3. And then let's reverse the axes. And then we know we don't need these. So the interval, let's just make that 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go tick marks. For major tick marks, you want to hit fixed, tick interval 1. So what that does is it breaks it up for us into 3 like values, just like what we have over here. And then to finalize, we want to just add the percentage sign. So we're going to go right click, format. We're going to leave this as a number because we're given the values in whole numbers. We're going to remove the decimal place, and then we're just going to manually add the percentage sign at the back of it. So in here, we can click in the suffix and put your percentage sign, and that just does that since we can't use the percentage. If we go percentage, it just goes all wacky. So we go numbers, no decimals, and percentage. Oh, not dollar, percentage. So we're kind of getting there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Why don't we start trying to put it all together? So let's build a new dashboard. Whoop, shoot. Let's go delete. Let's go new. Well, did it again. New dashboard. So I'm just gonna focus on building the dashboard itself. So the background, I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm just gonna pull a blank in here, and I'm going to remove all the spaces around it. Actually, I don't want that in there. Delete it. Oh, okay. Just bring it back. Something funny about Tableau that it does that all the time. Okay, so let's just keep this here. I'm going to change the background so that it matches. I'm going to remove the space by hitting this, 0, boom. So now we start to bring our items in. Let's first pull in the major background. So we're going to make that floating. Whoops. We don't want this guy over here, so we're going to delete it. We move this guy somewhere around the center. Let's move this in a little bit. Yeah, awesome. And then we don't want this little color here, so we're going to right click, format. We want to click the paint bucket, and then we want to hit the sheet. And then you see this tells us the color of the sheet white, but we don't want that. We don't want colors, right? So to make a blank, we click here, we hit none, and then boom, we're back to where we want to be. Title, also not useful, so we want to hit this down arrow here and cover the title. Awesome. And so now we can start to pull in some more stuff. Let's pull in the lines. So we're gonna hit this one, the copy of the sheet, pull it in, make that floating as well. And we want to hit there, remove the title, right click, format, remove the color. And then let's just start by making it the same size as this. So this is when you hit layout, you can see that it's actually let's make it even. 400 by 570 there. So let's hit this, width 400, height 570. Okay. And then we're just gonna place that, what is this at? 280 by 153. X is 280, Y is 153. So that's layered nicely. But what we want to do is actually move this in so that it doesn't interfere with the label. And we want to move this up so it's the same height. And then we're going to move this down. Okay, not quite. Okay, there. Now, what we actually want to do, let me do this. Edit axis. Let's go 1790, stops at 1870. That way we don't have any space. So these are all just like tips and tricks that you can do to get like, your proportions okay in Tableau. All right. And then we go back here. Year, show header. We want to match it so that it's the same range as the other guy, which I believe it was 1790 to 1870. So now we're good. I'm actually going to make this a bit slimmer because I know it's a bit thick. All right, so let's go back to the dashboard, and now we can see that it's looking a lot better. We right click, we hide the header. So boom, there we go. So that's all of that basically just took us to this stage here, but remember we want this reversed, so we're actually going to go edit axes and reverse that. Okay, so we're getting closer. All right, so now what do we want to do? What should we do next? We have this little thing here, the axes, so let's get that going. So let's go back here, go dashboard. We already made that here, so we pull this in, floating, right click, format, hit the color pane, hit the worksheet, click it. You want none. Hit this for the title. We don't want a title. And we're just gonna move this to the side. This starts at 153. So we can click here. We just go 153. So it starts at the same height. And then we can drag it all the way down. That's one way. Technically, you can like read the height of this thing, but in our case, we don't want that because what we're trying to do is essentially you want the 100 at the edge and 1.3 at the other edge, so you can just stretch it by yourself, basically. So we go this, we go that, and then you can bring it in. And then we have our axes. Okay, so that's done. We have one more up top here. So let's bring that in. We pull this here, hit this floating. We don't want the header as usual. So we hit this, no title. We right click, format, hit the paint bucket, hit the worksheet again. We don't want no color. So we hit none again. Boom. All right, now we're back to it. And we're gonna move it over here. So again, just same idea. You want to line it up and pull and just finesse it in there. Awesome. So there we got it. All right. So let's see what else we need to do. We've got everything. Next thing we want to do is actually let's just like give it a title and then change the font. That's as far as I'm gonna go, and then I'll talk a little bit about this little piece here. So what we do here, the closest font in Tableau that I found worked well with DuBois was the Courier New font. So we're just gonna change everything to work with that font. So to do that, I like to keep it simple. I don't change anything in the worksheet if I can help it. I'll just go here, format. I click format font. I want Courier New. Okay. And then I'm gonna go here, do the same thing. Courier New, same thing. Courier New. Courier New. So we got this. Let's make it a bit darker. So let's make it actually like black. 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 All right. All right, so there we have it. And then we're going to add just the text here, percent of free black people. That's pretty straightforward. Grab a text box, percent of free black people. Cover, hit, we'll change this to Courier New as well. We can leave it at font 9, but let's make it darker. Okay, arrow floating, and we're gonna move that here. Has a nice little. Okay, so there we have that. And then the final thing is to basically put in the title. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna click here. I'm just gonna Control C, Control V, copy and paste. If you have an older version of Tableau that doesn't have that feature, you would just do the same thing, drag a text box, pull it up here, and essentially what we're trying to do is give the title of, let's check that out, Enslaved and Free Black People. So it's the same idea. We double click, Enslaved and Free Black People. One of the things that you find is DuBois had a similar style where he would go bold for the title, and then kind of give those little annotations in smaller text, and then just gradually give that text hierarchy as he went with it. So we're going to make the title bold to kind of match his aesthetic. We're going to hit here, let's make that size 14 so that's a bit more prominent. We're going to hit OK. And that matches perfectly. So, the white space around this isn't very even, but I'm not worried too much about that. That's a whole nother, concept. Like we can discuss that in a different video. This is just to build the chart. So you can kind of see how that comes together. It wasn't really, difficult to build and chart out, but it was just more mainly thinking about how can I creatively put this together. And I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. for the most part, it looks really similar to the original. So, definitely watch this again, check it out, and see if you can pull this together. But again, like I said, sometimes in visualization, you kind of just have to think about what you have available and make do, because again, sometimes not everything is going to be available at our tips. So, as a final word, this little piece here, this was just something that I did in Figma. So it's actually just a picture. So I'm going to go and try to find, basically, yeah, it's just you draw a line and you kind of use the pen tool to do a little funny, I'm not going to go too much into detail about that. But again, this is just an image that I've done. So if I remove this, this is what it looks like. And I think this genuinely is good enough for what it is. It looks really similar. Like he did this by hand. So there's literally no way to replicate that other than, going outside of the box. So I think for what we have over here, I think we're good to go. So again, check this out, try it out, and see how you like it.